I remember going to see the cricket at the MCG in Melbourne, which is there's a Boxing Day cricket. Getting tickets to it is like you got to murder someone. My husband had just become a MCG member, which his parents had put him on the list to become a member when he was like knee-high to a grasshopper. And he was like, babe, come with me. It's the Boxing Day test. And I was like, okay. And I took a book and read the book, and people around me were booing. Put the book away. I was like, this is so much better than whatever that is that they're doing out there.
You're listening to Fussy Cutters Club podcast, a show that gives you permission to cut into the good fabric so you can make quilts you love. And now your host, who believes it's not a crime to love using novelty fabrics, Ange Wilson.
G'day, Fussy Cutters. Welcome back to the Fussy Cutters podcast. Today we are talking to a fellow Commonwealthian, Suzanne Campion, who, if you're not familiar with Suzanne's work, I'm telling you now, you are going to fall down a wonderful little rabbit hole of EPP and secondary pattern repeat designs and have a new appreciation for Liberty fabrics and just colour, detail, design, all the wonderful things that we love as fussy cutters. Suzanne graciously agreed to sit down and talk to me as she's working on a new project for Festival of Quilts, I think, if I remember correctly. And we got to talk about all the things that we love, fabric, colour, design, everything. Suzanne is just, I could talk to her for hours and hours and hours. And I think she's one of those people that I would love to sit in her studio with her and ask her questions as she works, because Suzanne works off instinct, and it's a really interesting way of seeing how skill meets practice meets natural talent, I guess, and how she implements everything. Suzanne has a really exciting and different entryway into quilt making, and again, something I could talk to her for hours about is her experience outside the quilt world and how it impacts her quilting. But yeah, a really interesting conversation. Just a really lovely person. So without further ado, let's get to chatting. Hi, Suzanne. Welcome to the Fussy Cutters Club. It's great to have you.
Good morning here from the UK.
Thanks for getting up and starting your day with us. So we've had a little bit of a catch up, but for those that don't know you, can you give me a little bit of a blurb about who you are, what you do, why you're on the Fussy Cutters podcast, what it is about makes you a fussy cutter?
I feel like, my name's Suzanne Campion. I'm a fussy cutting addict. I feel like I'm in an AA session.
Yes.
And I love fabric.
Yeah.
And I love focusing in on fabric and quilting up a storm.
You do. Now, your preference is it hand stitching, machine stitching, bit of both?
Well, yes, I do love EPP, but my other love is machine piece cathedral window technique. So I like to fussy cut sections, obviously to feature in the window, and then sometimes, the background as well, because you can't resist fussy cutting it.
Yes. So have you been a fussy cutter all your life? Was quilting, sewing something in your family? Did you find it later in life? How did you bring your talent to us?
Well, I think like a lot of people, my grandma taught me to sew. I think we started off on tapestry, which is like needle points. I did lots of cross stitch. I think carried on at school. In those days, we used to have a needlework lesson at primary school where you had like binker mat, we call it, which is like a large scale Ada with big holes where you're doing running stitch and stuff on. So everybody used to have a mat. I can't find mine. I think Mum threw it or something, but that's the day. And then at secondary school, as one of my courses, I did do dressmaking and art, and I went on to do a foundation in art and design, and then I went on to do a degree in textiles. And it was a 4-year course, because it was sort of like what we used to call a sandwich course. So you had work placements, Traditionally, you'd have 1 year out, but this was kind of split, so you could sample things. So we had a placement in the first year, second and third. And so the name of the course, it's a bit of a mouthful, was a design of carpets and floor coverings and related textiles.
Wow.
So this was based in Kidderminster, which is like the home of carpets in the UK. So if you've heard of Wilton or Axminster carpets, a lot of them were made there. But I zoned into weaving. So I was really into like hand weaving.
Yeah. Wow.
And then in my final year, I narrowed my warps down. So I guess I was narrowing my focus down to small detail then as well. And I got into braids and trimming.
Oh, wow.
And passementerie. Yeah. I think that was helped by one of my tutors. She got into Japanese braiding. Is it kumihimo with the round dialy thing with the weighted, a bit like lace making, but So yes, and then from there, there's like a graduates show in London called New Designers, and I got a commission from Osborne and Little, which is like an interior design company. So I designed a range of trimmings for them, and then I worked for a company that did bespoke trimmings. So interior designers send in their fabric, and then with the yarn, you're colour matching, and then you're sort of basically a bit like painted by numbers. All the products, it's made to match their sofa, their curtains, and then coming up with new tassel designs or whatever. And we did reproduction work as well. So there's Chatsworth House in Derbyshire, not too far away from me. And at the time, the Duchess, she's passed away now. She was one of the Mitford sisters. So she was a really interesting lady. As a thank you, actually, we had to go to tea with her when we'd done this work in the Mary Queen of Scots rooms. And so there we are in her private, drawing room. I think there was 4 of us, and there was all these tiny cucumber sandwiches, and then you're taking a bite. So they're really tiny anyway, and you're trying to take it to 3 bites. But she was really nice, but she's also mad as a spoon as well, because she was a complete Elvis fan. So we're in this like grand room, and then there's this telephone shaped like Elvis. And when it rang, it played "You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog."
Oh, I love that. I love mad people. So that's a really specialised field. I guess it's not one of those things where you go at school, what do you want to do? I want to do tassels and braids. And so how did you make the leap then from taking that love of design and colour and pattern into your craft work, I guess, your handwork?
Yeah, well, I took a career break when I had my daughters, and obviously that took off a lot of my sort of time. And then, funny enough, my brother got me a cupcake book, and cupcakes were really in, and I've always liked baking as well. And on the side, I started making cupcakes,
as you do.
And that just like really took off. But then I was really into like the decorations, what I was focused on, and did weddings and things. Then it just got completely bonkers. To be able to do it, I had to do it in the kitchen at home, and the family's food was all out the way, and clean it all down and whatever. And then it like stood up at 2:00 in the morning making cakes. It just became a bit bonkers and overtaking, and not quite the relaxing thing it was.
Which is what I think a lot of people forget, right? When you turn a hobby into a business, you no longer get the stress relief and the downtime and the just that enjoyable switching off that you get with a hobby. It's work. And in the same way as when you go to a 9-to-5 job, a hobby that's turned a business is also a 9-to-5 job. But 2:00 in the morning icing cakes would not be fun. No. There's only so much icing I could eat to make that enjoyable.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you soon get put off cooking the bowl. Soon.
So you're making cupcakes.
Yes, and so I was doing a few craft fairs and things. So I then started making bunting and things to decorate the stand and everything, and getting the sewing machine out again. And I think it was at 2012, which was the Queen's.
Oh, yeah, possibly. I'm trying to think. Or
around
Diamond?
the time of it. Yes, I think it was Diamond.
Yeah, because wasn't her...
2012 was also the Olympics in London as well, wasn't it? I'll come back to that when I remember it. So I was sort of getting the machine out again, and my mother-in-law, she was really into beading and stitching and dressmaking, and she'd kind of stopped driving, and so I started taking her to, well, there's a thing at the NEC, which is a big, in Birmingham, a big exhibition hall, to Sewing for Pleasure. And suddenly, I sort of got fabrics in, and she was a massive Kate fan. Like, she would just see a big print, buy 8 meters of it, and she would make a full skirt, jacket, top, and like, I felt like I was walking with the Queen sometimes, because people just like would part because she was just there, all in looking splendid, and like, you know, I was holding a bag, so everybody's asking, "Oh wow, I like what you made," something like that. And then we discovered Festival of Quilts. I think that was 2014. The first took us to that. Yeah, and then unfortunately she passed away in 2015.
Oh wow! Yep.
But I just started to join a local quilt group at the time, just to, you know, a monthly sort of meet. And it just escalated once I started buying fabric again.
Certainly, that's the common thread for all of us, is it just escalates quickly, and then you're sitting in a room full of fabric. And so what were the fabrics that you were drawn to in those early days?
Well, in the very early days, I think I was drawn to more novelty prints, like for my daughters, but you know, and Christmas prints and stuff. But obviously, always Liberty. I remember when I first worked, I saved up and bought a Liberty checkbook holder, and I remember, like, when I was at college, like, going to Liberty was just like part of the art trip, not just going to the art galleries, just going into Liberty and looking up the atrium and seeing all the, in those days, all the rugs and the cup would hang over like the railings of the balustrades all around. Then they're not allowed to do that now for health and safety, but
taking all the fun out.
Colour.
For those that might not be familiar with it, we in the Commonwealth tend to take Liberty as like, everybody knows about Liberty. And I guess in the quilting world, more and more people are getting to know about Liberty. But it is a British institution, and it's do they print their own fabrics? So they do all their own in-house design work. They have a very distinctive aesthetic with their prints. If you're a fan of, like, our 3-year-old used to be a big fan of Top Gear. I don't know why, as 3-year-olds will want to do. He liked cars. And I used to always be amazed. James May used to wear Liberty shirts all the time. So I feel like people have Liberty a little bit like William Morris in their subconscious, in their experiences. It's there in the wallpapers. It's there on, you know, coffee mugs or prints, and Liberty's kind of the same. It was always just there in the psyche. And so you were fortunate enough to be living in an area where you could go and partake. Did you find that those Liberty fabrics influenced the type of patchwork that you were drawn to as well? Or was it you had a patchwork style you really liked and then you found fabrics to fit it? Or
I mean, I think to start with, finance sort of stopped what you did. I think a lot of people with Liberty, when they first find it, it's like, well, it's too expensive. I can't cut into it. But it's no good being sat in a drawer because, well, obviously you do like have a drawer for these, but you just get so much enjoyment out of sewing from it, just even touching it. And as it's going into the sewing machine and you spot a little...
it's the little hidden things in the motifs. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the giraffe wearing sneakers and cute to the zoo. And
and that's the...
it's a little detail.
But that's the thing that I think everyone sort of goes when you go to a quilt guild or you go to a show or you meet someone and they're like, oh, I don't know how to use fabric, or I don't feel brave enough to cut into the fabric. And I remember advice that was given to me a long time ago by an elderly person. And they were like, life's too short. You need to use the good china. You keep it in this cupboard all the time and you look at it and you very rarely bring it out, and it's just for special occasions. And I remember she was so adamant. She's like, each day is the special occasion. You should use it every day. If it gets broken, it gets broken. That's part of making memories. And I feel like that mental position is the same for fabric. If you don't cut into it, you're never going to enjoy it. And I know the minute I pass from this realm, my husband is going to be out there using that fabric as a rag for cleaning the car or changing the oil, or he'll just go to some rando stranger. Here's a whole basket of fabric. Here you go. And that'll be the stuff that I was hoarding, and so now I use everything as soon as I can bring myself to do it, because I'm just like, admittedly, there is some stuff where I still leave it in the fat quarter bundle and I'm like, you are just for looking at, and then I tend to buy another set of it for you are for working. But it is that thing of, if you don't use it, you're never going to get that joy. And I think your work really encapsulates the joy that comes from using the good stuff. So for people who are not familiar with your work, you do a lot of what I call secondary design fussy cutting. So you fussy cut a specific part of the motif to create other patterns from it, which is really popular in English paper piecing. Can you tell me what it is that you like about that style of fussy cutting?
I quite like the kaleidoscope effect of it. The children's kaleidoscope where you saw the different patterns sort of appearing. Sometimes I don't actually use the magic mirrors, so to see what it's happening. I joined a fussy cutting sew along on Instagram. I think that's where I originally sort of got
into
the addiction to it. So, and obviously there were various pointers about each week about what you're looking at a central motif or a obscure section, and that kind of made me home in on certain things. I think, if it's in a diamond and there's a line going across, it's going to make a hexagon of some sort. So you kind of know what's going to happen. But I like sometimes some of the surprise elements. So I don't necessarily want to see it all the time. But then I'm often faced with especially with diamonds, which one is going to be the centre, because it looks good both ways. So I'll end up cutting out another set so that I've got both.
It's really interesting, and it's one of the joys of doing this podcast is that you get to hear other people's techniques for fussy cutting. But I don't use a mirror either, and a lot of my work, I think I can see it in my head, or if I can't see it instinctively, I know which bits I want to cut and what I want to do with them. And so it's really interesting. I thought I was the only one, because I like the surprise.
Because also the mirrors mirror it, so it doesn't actually show a true
representation.
Tessellation.
No, but it's the surprise is part of the addiction, because you just want to see what it's going to do. So do you look for inspiration for your patterns that you choose in terms of the primary patchwork shapes, do you look for it in historical work? Do you get it from modern work? Is there, because I look at your work and I think you're not a pattern purchaser, you're a pattern maker. So are you drawing from the history and your experience? Because I'm assuming, based on your career and where you live, that you've seen a lot of historical stuff. And so is it that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm definitely drawn to William Morris, and definitely the designs with the central axis, so that it's going to join as it's tessellating round. And I think I'm also drawn to that because obviously in the interior design world there was lots of damasts and sort of central motifs and I guess all the little hidden details. So I do like a honeycomb for a Lucy Boston block, and I'm really drawn to stripes. In fact, one of the first workshops I did was with a lady called Vivian Finch, and it was creating as many different stars, and these were 8-pointed stars out of one striped fabric, but it was sort of like, not like just regular stripe, like a feature stripe with different thicknesses of stripes and details. So I think that really, And so when I started experimenting with fussy cutting, people how say, oh, it's wasteful, it's wasteful. I got addicted to fussy cutting Ianthe, which is a famous Art Nouveau liberty print. And I thought, I can get this. And I was just like, if I turn it this way, and I was just building up all these pile of stars. And then I thought, right, okay, I'm going to see how many different stars I can get out of this one piece of fabric. So that's when I designed my Art Nouveau stars pattern. So it's sort of a wall hanging size quilt, and there's 55 different stars out of one piece of fabric, 1.5 to 2 meters. So that's 2 meters, say it's 2 meters of fabric, and you've got a quilt. And you'd probably spend a lot more money if you were buying lots of different prints.
You would. And that's the thing. Lots of people go to me, I don't like fussy cutting because I find it so wasteful. And I think I squeeze every millimetre, every fibre I can out of that fabric. And especially if you're a person who does the trim to size method of half square triangles or stitch and flip, where you're cutting off a corner and discarding it, you are wasting way more fabric than I waste using templates and yardage. And so I find it really disheartening when people are like, oh, I can't do it because I'm going to waste fabric. And I think, well, no, you just need someone to show you how to make the most of the print that you've got. And it's really funny because is it Jenny Beyer who does stripe fabric as well? And that's going to haunt me. I'm going to wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning, bolt up in bed, say some random quilt lady's name, and my husband's going to go, what? But she was known for using different widths of, I used to call it the wallpaper fabric, because it looked like the wide stripe and then a thin stripe and then she would make repeating one block wonder quilts and things like that out of those stripes. Yeah. And it was one of the things that taught me that stripes aren't boring. They're not a set. You know how some people go, oh, there's a fabric, you can only use that fabric in sashing or binding, and I think stripes give so much movement and depth and possibility to quilt making. But it is interesting that you talk about the motif on the axis, because a lot of people who use Chula Pink, that's one of the things they like about her. She inevitably puts some sort of damask style of print in a collection, which again is great for EPP. She's also one of those people that hides stuff in the prints, which I really like. But you're using a William Morris print at the moment. I'm not going to give away what exactly you're doing, but you're using one at the moment. The scale of it is quite large in this print.
Yes.
Do you find yourself drawn to the bigger prints or the smaller? Because Liberty tends to be a lot more of a tiny print. Do you have a preference, or you just go with whatever speaks to you at the time?
What speaks to me, the colour, obviously the design. Obviously, I have been, because most of them are sort of smaller scale on Liberty, but then I have got in my stash, there are some May Morris ones and William Morris Standen, and they are large scale. And I thought, oh, this doesn't work. And it hadn't really clicked to me until recently. Okay, I can do a 4-inch honeycomb, And so actually, making the templates to work. In fact, this one here, which is kind of based on a Lucy Boston, and I think traditionally Lucy Boston is a 1 inch. 1 inch box, but I actually made this one 1.25 so that it fitted, the parts,
that you wanted to use.
Section. Which is actually what I'm doing here, scaling up on the large one.
I know, and I am very excited because I am a late convert to William Morris. And if anyone is watching popular culture at the moment and has been watching the Anne Rice Interview with a Vampire and Mayfair Witches series, they use William Morris in all of their set styling, which I think helped me go, oh, yeah, William Morris. But I'm doing a quilt at the moment with 2 scales of a William Morris. Again, they're Free Spirit fabrics. And it's the Strawberry Thief, which is probably his most famous print. And it's the little bird and the big bird, and just the amount of fun you can have in mixing those 2 scales in the patchwork blocks, and the interest that it generates. It's been a real learning curve, and I think it's really interesting because I think there becomes a point in every quilter's journey where suddenly they realize that they're not bound by the scale that someone else sets, that they can rescale stuff either down or up or mix and match. And it's like this new thing just kind of unlocks for them. And so I can't wait to see, obviously, what you're working on now finished, because the little version of it is quite stunning. And I often ask people this question: is there a bucket list quilt that you haven't made yet that you would like to make, or you haven't designed it yet?
I would like to make one. Well, I've kind of started it from Lucy Boston blocks, and they're all in Liberty, but they're all blocks which have been fussy cut from the same fabric, so they don't look like the stripes. So it's kind of in progress, but I haven't made one block for that for maybe 4 years. I haven't made one for it, but so that's kind of in my head. Yes, I would like to actually make a Lucy Boston quilt, but then who knows? Maybe it might even be
large scale.
And I'd love to make a quilt with every single colourway of Ianthe or every single colourway of Strawberry Thief. But I know that's never, ever going to happen because they're going to bring out new colourways all the time. So it's never going to finish. Well, it will happen, but it will never finish.
Which is
or maybe it has to
probably a good thing, right? Do you ever think about, early on I used to find people that go, oh, what kind of quilter are you? And I'd be like, oh, far out, I don't know. Ask me when I'm dead or dying, and I'll look back over my career, and I'll go, oh, I was that kind of quilter, because I will have had enough experience and evolved and gone, yep, that's what I am. Do you ever think about what your quilts would look like if hung in an exhibition, if someone did a retrospective of your life?
Oh, yeah. I mean, then I keep thinking a lot of quilts wouldn't be there because I make a lot for like Alice Caroline's SOS. And I keep thinking, I wish I could have that one back or whatever put in there. That's
all right. We'll write a letter to her and go, Alice, could you, we're doing a retrospective.
Yeah. Well, the original ones, I think the first one went to the SOS Children's Charity. So they went to homes and Lithuania and all sorts.
Yeah, probably not then.
And I just wish I'd taken better photos at the time.
I know. I often think about when I first started and I am shocking for it now because I have so many things on the go, not capturing adequately what I've actually made and when I made it and why I made it and the process behind it. But it's an interesting because I think it reflects the fact that we as makers don't think of ourselves in the same way that like painters might do. We're not given the same credibility or it's a weird.
We're not given the same credit, are we, in the art world, because it's seen as a craft. It's often it's in the history, isn't it? It's men that have set what the value of paintings are to collect, and cars, etc. And I mean, occasionally now you will get vintage textiles coming up on the Antiques Roadshow, but it's only really us, isn't it, that sees the value.
Oh, I am addicted to watching Kensington Palace because they do textile restoration for clothing and tapestries and all sorts of big things. And they do a YouTube channel where they do videos on what they're working on and what's in their collection and the skill set that women had. Like they've got dresses from Elizabeth the First. Just trying Kate Blanchett, Elizabeth, where she the hours and hours of embroidery in these, and apparently she had like 1,500 dresses or something that's like believed in her closet, and she would gift them to people like her, people who'd been her ladies in waiting, or if they were significant, she would gift these dresses onto them. And I watched one last week where they had a altar cloth that they found hanging in a English countryside church. And when they took the altar cloth out of the frame that the church had put it in years and years ago, it turned out to be part of her dress, and the embroidery and the detail and I'm just like, it was just absolutely stunning. And they did it in a time where they didn't have access to, the stuff that we do. And I think, what will people in years to come think when they find our quilts, or will they fall victim to the commercialism, the throw it away society that we've bred? Although if people can't buy anything from China for a while, maybe that'll change.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think the whole world's going to change.
That's my hope, is that it's a resurgence.
I mean, I guess hopefully if people put quilt labels on, they'll know a bit more about us. And I suppose we've all got our social media footprint for people to find more about us, but who knows what the platform is going to change in the future.
So I bought a couple of years ago when I was in America, I bought a quilt that was made in like 1802. And I know nothing about the maker. I just know that I absolutely could not live without that quilt. There was something about it that just spoke to me, and I absolutely positively had to give it a home. And I think, will my work inspire that same sense of desire, need, connection? I don't even know. But like I said, I know nothing about her. And I think it is quite conceivable that my quilt will turn up in a thrift store or, at a garage sale or something like that, and someone else will have a connection with it and be like I am with that quilt, where I tell myself this story about this woman who made this quilt and what she must have been thinking, because the design's very, what I would consider, contemporary to today's quilt designs. And I think she was ahead of her time, that lady. And if it's anything like my friends, they were probably going, why are you making that? She was thinking, someone somewhere will love it. But it's just a really, and because your work taps into that, like I could quite easily see one of your quilts on Antiques Roadshow. And I'm like, is that something that inspires you with the craft that you're connected to, or is it something you just don't think about because it is something that's so close to you in being creative?
I wish sometimes the stitches could talk, and that they could tell the person who's doing it, what was going through your mind.
That could be dangerous.
Was it what am I having for tea? Oh, I've got to get through this. Or something that's happened in your life, or just like. But then I think sometimes the stitching, I know the mindfulness is the big buzzword, but it does take your mind off problems you're going through, whether it's the menopause or grief or whatever, stress of children, what's going on at school, everything. It's just, aging parents, it just helps. It kind of grounds you. And I think you also kind of feel connected knowing that women in Elizabethan times were stitching Queen Elizabeth's dresses and, and well, in a way, it's like women, but then I guess it was women in big houses that had the luxury of spending hours and hours doing embroidery. So in a way, it feels like a privilege to be able to stitch when you think about the historical.
Yeah.
But then also there's obviously the tradition of patchwork where it was more of a necessity. It was part of being the homemaker. You were collecting all the scraps and you were making something warm.
But they still did it with
to keep your child
they still
warm.
did it with flair. Like they still did it in a way that reflected who they were as the maker. And I think, this isn't a women's podcast in any stretch of the means, but it's that thing that I think is remarkable about women is whatever the circumstance, they will find a way to reflect a little bit of who they are in everything they do. And I find it really interesting that this utilitarian craft has now got legions and legions of fans all over the world who do it as a creative outlet to get past the fact that they're doing a job that would never have existed when patchworking was first done. Like there's this real sort of juxtaposition between the lives of the women who were doing patchwork to keep their kids warm and give their families something to sleep under, and women today who could go to Target or Kmart or wherever and buy something, but instead choose to spend that time making. And it's I would love to see the tapestries and the weavings and the carpets and those things that you saw early on in your career and how those have inspired the work that you do now in much the same way that those women back then were doing this, and it's now inspired us. Do you feel like you carry a little bit of the sensibility from that education and that experience you had into how you see design in patchwork?
I think I was reflecting on that actually at the weekend. I hosted a workshop and I did a little trunk show and I was talking about my career, and it's sort of thinking, gosh, yeah, because I started off working at large scale, but then you had to look at it looking down on the floor and have the effect. But it was a large scale design, and I guess I've gone back to that. But then as a weaver, you are really focusing on the detail when those two colours cross and the effect of those colours mixing. And so I think sometimes I've got that mindset of always knowing what other colours are going to, or I am always auditioning colours, and I'm like with a patchwork, I won't necessarily know. I don't know what the background colour for this is yet. I've got about 6 auditioned as the plain background, but I feel confident enough. I don't mind how many colours it takes to work it out, but I'm not scared of trying it on lots of different colours to see which makes it sing or which make you don't want to kill it, which fits it.
Do you find when you are out and about or watching TV or reading like magazines or anything like that, are you consciously or subconsciously looking at what colours are paired together? and how others have used colour?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe not always realising, but yeah, sometimes you will see something and think,
That was smart. There's or when you see quilts like hanging in an exhibition, I often think, oh, that person was really clever. It mightn't be fabric that I would have been drawn to, but they've made it interesting through the use of this pairing, or they've put that colour together, which I would never have thought of, and it's interesting that you talk about the weaving impacting how you understand the colour, because again, that's a really small thing that has this massive implication to the use of it.
Yeah, and I guess if I'd gone down the surface pattern design route, you see colours in different ways. I mean, Tudor often talks about it when they're doing the screen printing. Other colours can cause a reaction. I've forgotten what the word is when they meet.
Yeah, I do. And again, at 2:00 in the morning, I'll be thinking, oh, it's that word.
Yeah.
But it is a really interesting thing to see how colour plays out. Do you think that your environment, because the colours you're using currently at the moment in the project that's behind you, which people are just going to have to follow you on Instagram to see when it's revealed, not the types of colours that you would associate with English countryside or the English weather. And we both commented that we're both wearing black-based prints today. Do you think your environment influences your appreciation of different colours? Like, do you think if you were living in Spain, you'd have a different outlook again?
Yeah, I think so. And seasons, I definitely go for richer plum colours and richer teals in the winter. And I feel like sometimes I was being teased on Saturday because I was wearing this thing, but actually I was sewing with Sally Kelly as well. So I was just like taking coordination a bit too much to the max.
That's commitment. That's what we like to see.
Yeah, well, actually the lady next to me, she was wearing a lifty dress, and she was also, some of the patches in the cushion were actually the same fabric for my dress, and so we were teasing her that she's going to, stitch a dress into it. So I think we do. I don't know. Does everybody choose colours that they like to wear, and also that's included in their patchwork?
Yeah.
Sometimes I find myself drawn that way, but then I know a lot of patchworkers actually are quite sort of plain and simple in what they wear and just throw all their colour into their work.
It's funny.
But more is more.
Whenever I travel internationally, everyone's always like, you're Australian, aren't you? And I'm like, why do you say that? And they're like, because the colour, just the absolute, like, this is probably the most subdued thing that I wear. And I think it's one of the things that I just started a new job, and in the office they're always saying to me, you've got bright colours on, you're always wearing bright colours. And I think life's too short not to use all the colours. But then I think sometimes I wish I was the person who could pull off a really nicely tailored, neutral look, and they look elegant or that smart casual, whatever that is. They will really pull together and refined. And I'm the same with quilts. The things that I lust after with quilts are often the palettes that I feel like I'm not strong in. And they're the nuanced, subtle, various tones of the same colour or different shades of the same colour, or people who can work in all solids. I've never understood all solids because my head just doesn't work like that. And I'm very grateful for the people whose head does, because they make the work that I love to look at. But the work that I do is like, I often say it's like Tinkerbell threw up on fabric. It's just all the colours. Yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah. It's quite interesting what you said about colour and environment. When I worked like an interior design thing, I was quite surprised in Scotland, like there's an interior designer in Scotland I used to visit in Edinburgh, and he wanted the bright, bright colours, which he didn't think they'd want because of the dullness of the weather. They needed the brighter colours because it absorbed the colour kind of reflection absorbed the dullness, so they didn't actually look that bright in the actual interior.
It's like painting.
If that makes sense.
It's that thing when you paint a room a dark colour, will make it feel cozy, and you think, oh, that makes no sense at all. But when you see it implemented is the word I was looking for, it really does make a big room seem cozier. But I know we moved here in the last few years, and I wouldn't have said green was one of my colours I was most confident in using. But the thing I've noticed most about living back in the tropics is how many different shades of green there are, and just all the ways that those greens work together, and the colours that pop against a green background, or the colours that are in nature that, you know, it's not like the wildflowers go, oh, you know, yellow, you should go over there in that section, and purple. They all just grow up together, and it's an amazing variety of colour. Yeah. And I think I know that my fabric choices have changed in the 3 years we've lived here because I'm being more drawn to greens and how to use those. And again, I'm like you, I like to audition a background colour. And even now, using different shades of backgrounds that I would never have considered. Once upon a time, I would make a grey background quilt like that. Like I would just, it would be the thing that it would be my safe zone. I would go to different greys and use, and now I can't even look at a grey and think, oh, I don't want to use you. You're too, but we were living in an environment where we got a winter, and I wondered whether that I was matching my outsides with my fabrics, but I don't know. It's probably overthinking it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the weather does affect your colour choice.
It has to,
doesn't it?
And I think it's the thing that most people say when they come to Australia is the colour. Because we've got so much sunshine all year round, you are just constantly bombarded with colour. Yeah. And it's one of the things that I noticed when we do travel. And it sounds really weird, but the sky is different in different places of the world. Like it is just different. And I don't know. And again, my husband will probably be laughing, but I don't understand the science of it because it seems like it should all be the same. Yeah. It's all sky. Yeah. But it is different.
I know. Some places the sky seems bigger. I don't know why does the sky seem bigger in places.
Like it's just, and it goes, there's different colours of blue, like sky blue. But yeah, it is one of those things where I think my husband often tunes me out, but it's that thing of when we're travelling, I'll be like, does it feel different in the atmosphere here to you? And he'll be like, what are you talking about? I'm like, the colours seem different. The sky seems smaller or bigger and he'll be like, oh my gosh, okay, yep, all right, strange lady. Yeah. But it did. I worked in Cambridge for a bit in the UK, and I felt like I was hemmed in, but it was because everything like the height of the buildings in rooms is not as tall as the standard build here in Australia. And that's, again, a reflection of age because the country has been around longer than Australia has in that colonisation sense. Yeah. And so the height differences in the rooms, and then we have the luxury of front yards, whereas I was living in a house in Cambridge that the wall of the living room was the wall that people were standing beside on the footpath, which blew my mind. Yeah. And so it felt like the whole time everything was kind of on you, on top of you. But the colours of the stone used in the buildings, the cobblestone pathways, the countryside, that we just didn't have those kinds of greens, those kinds of foliage. The animals weren't trying to kill me. It was just different.
Oh, I nearly had a heart attack on one of your recent posts of that carpet snake.
That's a baby.
Oh, I think I really do want to come to Australia, but I think it's the snakes that really put me off.
Look, I feel like this property that we're on at the moment is the exception to the rule, because we see a snake on average once a week, like a different one. It's not the same guy, and the different varieties and things like that. But I've lived 20 years in Canberra and seen 2 in the entire time we were there. Like, it happens to be location, and we back onto a river, so obviously they're drawn to that. But on the flip side, we've had echidnas here, we've had goannas, we have wallabies that come up to our back door that we've trained to eat off our back veranda. You know, so you take the good with the bad.
Yeah,
and I do have more of an appreciation for snakes now.
Yeah, I mean, their details and colours can be pretty amazing.
Oh, the scales. I'd never realised the intricacy of their scales. Even the plate where their scales change from, and I know this because I was looking at one through our lounge room window the other day for quite a while, where the neck meets the back of their head. It's kind of like a Lucy Boston honeycomb kind of, in the way it just, they change. Yeah, it's a really... Like I said, my appreciation for them has deepened, but I still have a very healthy respect and give them a wide berth. But
yeah,
but there's stuff that I think, there's quilt patterns in everything. I don't know whether you see the world, like when you're going around in your day to day, there's quilt patterns in everything, in the geometry of the world and the way that we use materials. And I love that you are addicted to Lucy Boston, because it's probably my favourite EPP pattern. And I think that honeycomb pattern, once you see it, it's everywhere. It's something that I thought was really unusual, but it's not that it's commonplace. Like, it is a real...
It's in Islamic tile designs and stuff as well.
Japanese work.
I guess. Yeah.
So,
the family's always taking the mickey out of me when we're going somewhere and I'm just stopping, taking a random picture. Because I like the shape, or I can see a quilt design or a pattern or something in it. The other day I saw an EPP pattern and it was in a cosmetics toiletry packaging that I saw this pattern. I was taking a picture of.
Yep. We went through Disneyland a couple of years ago and I got so excited because there were quilts in one of the rides, like literal quilts. And I remember being so excited that there was a quilt in the wild in Disneyland. And my husband was just like, is there no place that you won't stop to take a photo of a quilt or a quilt pattern or an inspiration? And I'm like, that's the joy of life. Like, it's like Antiques Roadshow for me. Yeah. It's like you're hunting for that find or the and that's fabric's the same. I'm like, there's fabric that I would give my left leg for a fat quarter of, and the hunt for that fabric. And I mean, for you especially with Liberty, like, do you ever dream about going into their back catalogue and just helping yourself?
Oh yeah. I mean they did bring out, the archivist brought out a book not so long ago, and which is fantastic, but it was like, but this isn't, I know, like, there is an aircraft hangar which has got the actual archive in. I mean, the actual designers work from so she uploaded it all, so it's all like a digital archive for them. But I just love, I don't think even the designers have been in to actually see the original stuff, but that would be an absolute dream. And I keep thinking about, Betsy is one of the most popular, and I think people will make Betsy quilts, and people don't. And I want to know more about the designer DS, because that's all they know. It's just like you were saying, I wonder if she knew when she designed that, just like how mad it was. And I don't, like William Morris, I mean, would he realise he's still such a big influence? And then would he actually be cross because he was about arts and crafts, and now Strawberry Thief
On everything?
is like on every single thing, and it's being mass produced. And actually, would it like make him cross? I don't know.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point because it is on everything. Like if you're on any sort of Chinese bulk purchasing site, it's all over it. Like it is just, it's everywhere. And I think, yeah, it would be interesting to know because we often, so yeah, it's a bit like everything. Like there's some philosophers who would have been like rolling in their graves to know that schools were named after them, or because that was the antithesis of what they believed while they were alive and what their theories and their thoughts and their school of thinking. And I wonder with the surface pattern designers whether they would be the same or whether he would be, I don't know, whether you'd be chuffed that it would be everywhere or that something he had. I mean, you hear songwriters talk about when their songs are picked up and that songs then become, you know, the background for people's weddings and birthdays and first dances and memories and funerals and all that sort of stuff. Would surface pattern designers be the same, that these are the patterns and the colours that we choose to live our lives to? But yeah.
But maybe we are drawn to some of the traditional older designs like Strawberry Thief because it feels safe, or we want things to go back. We don't want things to go too crazy, or when the world's going a
you
bit
say
mad.
That, but
if you've got Strawberry
the
Thief,
Strawberry Thief that you're currently working with at the moment is a bit far from what he originally envisaged.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is. It's a really interesting thing to think about. Are we drawn to the safety of what was known? And I mean, you see it, Chula Pink in the last few years as she's re-releasing collections, and you see she's not doing massive changes to them. A lot of the times it's scale and a recolor, and the way people react to that change of their favourite print, and you think, is it the thing that everything is so transient in our lives that we cling to those things that we love that have some sort of sentimentality to them because they're not changing, they stay the same. I mean, and we're doing a craft that's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and we do it with our little nod to modernity through the techniques we use and the tools we use, but essentially at their core they're exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to see one of your quilts with some tassels and braid.
Yeah, I have put a few tassels on a few pouches and stuff, and then actually at the weekend they're saying, oh, you have to come back and do a tassel making course. But I do like to add a bit of double piping to the like end of the quilt. So I am trying to add embellishments. And the thing with Cathedral Window, of course, you can make button tufts at the points and stuff. But yes, and then I could see tassels coming out like a Madonna style quilt.
The showgirl of quilting.
Yeah.
It's very Las Vegas. And again, we circle back to Elvis Presley in a stateroom.
Yeah.
No, that would be brilliant. I would definitely pay to do that class.
Yeah.
But have you ever been to like the V&A, the Victoria and Albert Museum, and had a look at their textile collections and things like that? Or
yeah,
I would always be there.
Yeah, I mean, from a student, we used to go there. I mean, I remember when I actually got lost once in the museum. I really was a bit worried at one point. But,
leaving breadcrumbs.
Yeah. So, yes, I do. If I go to London, well, yeah, because I do love to go to the tea room there, the Willie Morris rooms. So they're just a feast for the eyes anyway. But yes, I haven't been this year yet, but yes, I'm definitely going to make it.
The year's still
there.
young.
And actually, I'd love to go to, it's on my list to do next time in London, to Emery Walker's house. And he was a friend of William Morris. And there's lots of textiles in there that May Morris made. daughter. So there's a couple of Liberty prints which was called Emery Walker, and it's not until recently I realised
they're a nod to each other.
Friends with him, and yes, I'd love to go and see that. But yeah, the V&A is an absolute source of inspiration, and they have anything on from like modern fashion to Persian rugs.
Yeah, it's the years ago I bought Kay Fassett's V&A quilts book, where he took quilts from the V&A and reimagined them into his style. And there's a few quilts in there that I think had either patience and nothing else to do. I would have loved to have made versions of those because they are absolutely stunning. But I am too much of a bull in a china shop when it comes to creating. I need it fast and I need it now, and which is why I like your 4-inch Lucy Boston, because I think, you can machine those.
Yeah, I was actually thinking, I probably could. But I just think I'd quite like the madness that when people see it, actually English paper pieced it.
Yeah, but it's it's that thing of, I don't know whether other people do it when they see EPP, but I think that person sat controlled for large periods of time, hand stitching. In an environment where this day and age we're like go, go, go all the time, you've got to be doing something, you like 3 different things, you're juggling kids' sports commitments and work commitments and this and that and everything else, that person sat and focused on that task for hours on end, because when you put the hours back to back to back to back, they add up. And I think it's just such an amazing testament to your art, I guess, the thing that you love to do.
And I like to do it because it's portable, because when I think I was always doing that cross stitches as my portable craft, and then I realised, EPP, and then all of a sudden, you can actually make a quilt on the go. Yeah, lots of my EPP have been done in the car park, waiting for ballet classes to finish, or on the side of badminton courts.
Again, if only your stitches could talk.
Watching my husband play cricket.
Oh, cricket is such a good one for stitching. I find no other sport. No, that's not true. Baseball I find boring too. I don't fully understand the concept of sport at the best of times, but then I remember going to see the cricket at the MCG in Melbourne, which is there's a Boxing Day cricket. Getting tickets to it is like you got to murder someone. My husband had just become a MCG member, which his parents had put him on the list to become a member when he was like knee-high to a grasshopper. And he was like, babe, come with me. It's the Boxing Day test. And I was like, okay. And I took a book and read the book, and people around me were booing. Put the book away. I was like, this is so much better than whatever that is that they're doing out there. And I think if I was stitching at the time, I would have taken a quilt. It would have been the quilt done at the MCG.
Yeah.
But yes. But anyway, we've been talking for an hour. It is first thing in the morning for you, and it's the end of my day for me. I can't thank you enough, Suzanne, for giving up your time and for talking and sharing your experience. For everybody else out there, there will be links to Suzanne's work and how to buy patterns and follow her. Trust me, you want to hang in there to see this quilt that she's working on at the moment. Thank you so much for joining me, Suzanne.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful. I feel like we've still got about 3 hours of packing to do.
I'm going in to pack my bags, and I am heading over, and then you can take me on a guided tour and tell me all the interesting things about all the stuff. Because it's that knowledge, and someone who's passionate about what they love, I could listen to them talk about it forever. Even physics, I think I could sit through a physics lecture if they were passionate about it. But yes, thank you so much. Yeah. We'll do it again very soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Fussy Cutters podcast. Enjoyed listening? Why not subscribe so you'll never miss an episode? Did you know the quickest way to the heart of any podcaster is to leave a review or recommend the podcast to a friend? It's true, it is. Until next week, get out there and fondle that fabric.